Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me for this New Year's Day broadcast from Jesus. Happy New Year to all of you. Lovely to see all these different names showing up. Just want to mention a few things.
A broadcast from Jesus. Happy New Year to all of you. Lovely to see all these different names.
It's okay. I have to mute one of these channels while I channel. So you probably got a little double thing going on there for a minute. So don't panic. It's all fixed now. First of all, I want to thank you all for joining me in this work. There's no point in me doing it by myself. So thank you all for showing up. Jesus has asked me to do A Course in Miracles lessons daily for those people who would like to either do it again or do it for the first time with guidance from him. And so if you would like to do those lessons, it's best to subscribe to my channel and hit the little bell thing that's next to the subscribe button. And every morning you will get a new video. So that's my big discipline for this year, is to do all those videos for you. We do have a couple of spaces left in our Palm Springs Indio retreat. So if you're interested in that, you can email assistant.channelingjesus@gmail.com for information. And we also have a couple of rooms left on our Costa Rica retreat, which is March 12th to 17th. So that's a little bit of other information before we go to Jesus's New Year's broadcast. So I will take a couple of breaths, and as usual, he will come through and he will let us know what 2019 is all about for us, Course in Miracles students. I will see you at the end of his transmission, and if I have time and feel so inclined, we can do a couple of questions from the chat. You are blessed beings indeed. I am that one that you know as Jesus. And we want to thank you for joining us here today on this wonderful, wonderful January 1st in your calendar. You are driven by time on your plane, and that is okay. We are glad that this day in particular is deemed a day of new beginnings for you in your society. Most days in your society are not. You are encouraged to keep doing the same old thing. But January 1st is a wonderful, wonderful symbolic your calendar. And we want you to really take advantage of it this year, not with frivolous revolutions focused on the body. So don't worry if you're a little bit plump. Don't worry if you're eating things a little off track. We want you to practice forgiveness. We want you to make this the year that you do the lessons diligently and as described every day. And that is why this being has been guided to do these daily transmissions for you. This is a wonderful gift because many of you have come to know these teachings through this being, and it is a very, very familiar and comfortable place for you to go each day. And this will really, really benefit your evolution more than anything else. Because what will happen as you do these lessons and as you clarify your mind, whether you've done them before and are repeating them, or whether you are doing them for the first time, you are changing the most powerful part of you. And from that transformation will come all the other changes that you are seeking. So you think that if you go to the gym and do sit-ups that someone will fall in love with you, or you think that if you go from dairy to non-dairy you will have a mystical experience. And all of these things are fine and dandy, and we're not saying don't do them if you're inspired to do them. In fact, if you do the lessons, you will be inspired to do all kinds of things that are good for your health. Why? Because you are raising your frequency. You are getting to the root of any problems that you have. You see, you are trained to move the chairs around on the Titanic. You are trained to go to the physical remedies all the time, the magical physical remedies. That's what your society teaches you to do. And that does not mean that if you're attracted to a particular herbal remedy that you ignore it, but you do that in it with the transformation of the emitting device. That is your consciousness. And as you know, as Course in Miracles students, this is where the great miracles happen, because you are looking at effect and thinking it cause. You are looking at the world and saying the body's wrong, the girlfriend or the boyfriend's wrong, the house is wrong, the income's wrong, the job's wrong, the president's wrong, the political agreements are wrong. But they are the end result of thousands upon thousands of frequencies emitted from all of you. And we must remind you here that that is what the world is. It is a reflection, a collective reflection of all of you. So when you go inside your mind with these lessons, we want you to know that even though it looks like you're doing nothing much in particular, looking around the room and saying strange things, you are doing great, great work. Now, many of you struggle with the discipline of these lessons, and we hope that these videos showing up on your computer every day are going to give you that little nudge, but you still must do those lessons throughout the day as designated in those videos. So it's not totally going to fall onto our dear one here to remind you. You must still dedicate yourself several times a day to doing the work. What is the work? The work is, for a moment, stopping the day, stopping your normal thinking processes, stopping the busyness, stopping whatever it is you're doing, and saying, this moment is important enough for me to take a little time out from this effect. Remember, the world is the effect, it is the end result. So if you're putting 24 hours of effort into working with the effect, you are not going to change it. And this is the thing that we want to remind you of as you are doing these lessons, if you choose to do them again or for the first time. You are in that moment of taking a minute out of your busy day. You are going to cause. And that is where you are going to reap the benefits of this practice so very, very noticeably. Now, 2019 in your society is going to see a lot of transformation because your unloving systems are being challenged by the increasing frequencies of your planet. It is going through a consciousness evolution revolution, as each of you are who are watching this video. You would not be watching this video if you were not on a path of awakening. And it doesn't matter where you are on that path of awakening. These lessons of A Course in Miracles that we are asking you to consider will assist you no matter where you are. Why? Because it reminds you of where the transformation takes place. And many of you, because of the erratic nature and the inconsistencies and the volatility of the news that's making its way to your senses through your mass media systems, you are being drawn into the world as if it's the problem. And it is the problem. It is a manifestation of the problem in the collective consciousness of each of you individually and together collectively. It is the end result of the problems and the distortions in your minds. So as you do these lessons, as you're reminded daily by these videos, we want you to look at the world and go, ah, yes, the end result of a lot of negative minds, a lot of negative thoughts. Let me not be obsessed with that world out there, because it is not going to change it. It is in my inner transformation that I am going to have the greatest effect. Now, you will look at a person like this being here, and you will see that there are videos and books and all sorts of things coming through this being. Well, this is a demonstration of the kind of transformation that can happen to a consciousness that is dedicated to not only doing A Course in Miracles lessons, but also practicing those principles relentlessly for several years. This being had very little effect before she did A Course in Miracles, and even during many years of studying A Course in Miracles, she was clarifying, clearing throwing out the junk from her mind, struggling with many, many issues. This was not an easy path for her. She had many, many deadly distortions in her mind, and she does not mind telling you about those things and has frequently. She barely made it out of her teenage years and out of her early 20s because of the unloving aspects of her consciousness. But as she retrained her mind, she began to feel better, and she knew it was this strange blue book. And so we want you to understand that this demonstration of clear channeling, which is an exceptional talent that has been revealed through the clarification of her mind, not dispensed upon her by a generous God, but this is a natural talent that you all have, to have direct conscious contact with wisdom and knowledge. This is what your natural fate is. The ego mind fed too much food in your society, relentlessly sprinkled and doused with hatred and fear, combativeness and argumentativeness. As that happens, you have lost the ability to do these kinds of things. Many beings in your history who were accused of being witches or warlocks or evildoers were killed because they did have access to spirit. And that was why the church killed them, because they knew that once a being has access to spirit, they are a threat to dogmatic, limiting religious and cultural beliefs. And once you have opened your mind to a more expanded vision of yourself and the world and how it works, you can never go back. Ignorance is only bliss until you wake up, and then you can never go back. You cannot unsee and unlearn things. And so those beings had to be destroyed to maintain the church's power and influence and instill fear in those beings that were not connected to spirit in such a profound way. But the times are changing, and you now have a tremendous amount of freedom. And we want you to use that freedom. However, when you go into expressing your own freedom, you begin to bump up against fears. You begin to bump up against ideas. Well, maybe it's not safe if I say this, or maybe I will be persecuted if I share this video. Maybe my family will ridicule me if I am open about my spiritual pursuits. And that is a good thing. You will see, I think I'm free. But as soon as I go or think about challenging the status quo, beliefs and ideas in my mind come up that make me stop. And this is where you are going to see and feel the transformations of doing A Course in Miracles. You are going to begin to understand that you are not as free as you think you are, that you are afraid of something. Someone, you're not even quite sure who. But this is why the lessons of A Course in Miracles and the practicing of those principles and teachings is so important, because you become connected to the true source of your power, which is that loving connection with Source, with God, all that is. Christ consciousness, many names for it. But you are going up through the heart and through the opened mind into higher levels of consciousness. You are not going horizontally to get your approval or your power or your sense of self. You are in fact dissolving yourself, your sense of self, and you are connecting to the one, the source, the wisdom, the knowledge, the truth, love. You see, love holds everything together. If you do not love yourself, the physical structure of your body will not hold together. It will begin to disintegrate into disease. It will begin to get depressed. It will begin to get feelings of isolation and desperation. And that is when the loving essence of the spirit, the vital life force that is you expressing yourself, will not be able to stay on the planet. So these lessons, for all of you that are struggling with health issues are distortions of mind that are being put into the body because you do not want to look at those distortions of mind. You're going to have feelings and you're going to have all kinds of guidance, and you're saying, nope, not listening, too scary, don't want to do it. And so I'm going to put it here, I'm going to put it out there. And then you get a seeming sense of peace. It's not really peace. We say it's more like a ceasefire, more like the guns are still loaded in there, but they're laid down on the ground for a little while. But we want you to understand that the lessons of A Course in Miracles are the means that you have been given in this time and place, these escalating energies. The reason A Course in Miracles came in was for this time. There is a galactic acceleration happening, and it is important for you to understand that this year you are going to begin to feel and see and experience the shifting of your society in a profound way. And if you are in the horizontal path of getting your power or receiving approval, and you're not going vertical for that connection to love, to the divine, to wisdom, you are going to become frightened, because the horizontal, the battlefield of the ego's world, is going to be shaken up this year. And we do not tell you these things to scare you. This is a glorious, glorious moment in your society. It is indeed what you have all wanted to experience when you came into this particular time and place and you found this particular work. You said, let us find this work and let us do this work so that when these transformations take place, we are prepared and we are not afraid of our bodies being killed. We are not afraid of scarcity. We see love everywhere, and we will be the bright lights that shine for our brothers and sisters who become nervous. And every single one of you here who's listening to this video, we challenge you this year to do these lessons, even if you've done them before, even if you consider yourself an accomplished spiritual teacher or practitioner. We challenge you to do these lessons again to remind you of the fundamentals that you are laying the meaning on this world, and that if you go vertically, you are going to be given insights, you are going to be given guidance, you are going to be given the wisdom that you need to traverse these rocky waters that are coming along. Once again, we say A Course in Miracles was brought through over 50 years ago, but it was for this time so that the seeds could take root, so that the roots could grow little plants, and so that those little plants could grow into teachers and teachings and retreat centers and all kinds of things around the world, so that in this time and place now, you have a profound and deep resource that you can go to for these teachings and trainings. And you will each be drawn to different beings. Not all of you will find this particular format suitable for you. The channeling format is a very challenging thing for some of you. Some of you think that this person is making all this up as she goes along. Well, we tell you it is not so. She's not that clever. She's very clever, but she's not that clever. And if you try to pretend to channel for about a minute, you will realize that this is an impossibility to bring forth this kind of information with such fluidity and such clarity. So 2019 is going to reveal to you some big secrets. There are going to be some shocking truths revealed through your mass media systems and through some alternative media systems. And we want you to know that these revelations, these exposures, are shocking at times, and they will be confusing for many of you that have built your personality or your value system on the structures that are going to be dissolved. So this is one of the reasons these practices are so important, because it turns you away from the world as your source of security, safety, and personality, and it takes you inside to spirit. And that is never changing, that is never variable, and it will always be there no matter what. And that is your security. That is your knowledge that this is a safe place to go. The ego wants things to stay the same in the physical material world because it is very, very frightened most of the time. And that is why we have, as we said earlier, guided this being to do the lessons again, because the instability that's going to be revealing itself through many, many different forms this year is going to frighten the ego mind. And if your ego mind has become strong again, perhaps you did the lessons a few years ago and you've let them lapse and the practices lapse. You've been drawn into the drama of the politics and the economic crises around the planet or the environmental devastation around the planet, and you feel your sadness or anger or anxiety. That means that you have gone to the world again as your source of peace, and you will never find it there. It is not there. And these are the 1,000 roads that the ego will tell you, oh, we've done that one, let's try this one. If we get the house, if we get the body, if we lose the 20 pounds, if we get the new partner, if we get that pair of boots, if we get that much money, then we will feel safe. But that is not how your security is cultivated, dear ones. You are spiritual beings connected to all that is through your guidance system. The impeccable guidance system that is in the frequency of love. And when you step out of the frequency of love, you feel bad. And when you are in alignment with love, gazing upon the world with forgiving eyes, knowing, that's the end result of a lot of thinking and believing. And if I get caught up in that, I'm just wasting my time. Now, many of you will say, well, if I'm not involved in the world, I don't want to live in my bedroom by myself with a book. We are not saying that that is what you should do. We are saying that you will receive guidance. We are saying that you will see where your behavior or thoughts or beliefs are not serving you in the world. And as you go out each day, prepared for that day by your practicing of the lessons, and if you are a diligent student, reading a little of the text, you will set yourself up to view the world in the correct way. And this is so important this year, so that you are not drawn into the fear. The powers that be use fear to keep you unstable. It is their practice. It is how they maintain power over you. Because if you are in fear, you are in the lower frequencies of the 3D world, and the ego rules down in those frequencies. In doing these lessons, you are going to take your consciousness up to the higher realms of 3D, adjacent to 4th dimension, which is the heart, which is love. And that is the tunnel through which you will get into 5D, through the heart, through forgiveness. Forgiveness as described in A Course in Miracles, not forgiveness as described by the church, which sees the sin. There is no sin, for you are the creator of all that is out there. So if you attack that as sinful, you are indeed attacking your parts of your own mind, and you will feel fear, because this separation, the part of you that you think you are and the part of you that you think is separate and objective out there, is all one mind. And when you attack a part of it, you attack all of it, and you will feel fear because you are in fact attacking the divine. And that is why you feel anxious when you are in that horizontal, ego-driven battleground mode, because you are judging what you think is a separate being, but that separate being is in fact a projection of your own mind, representing an aspect of yourself that you have yet to love, yet to accept, yet to come to master. So we know that we are going down into the basics of A Course in Miracles teachings here, pure non-dualism, but that is what is going to be required of you this year, to up your game into a less judgmental frequency, up your game into a more loving frequency, being wise and looking at the shenanigans of the ego and the fear-mongering of the mass media systems, and knowing, do not let them push your buttons. Do not let them harvest your fear. Stand firm, but to do that, you must change the programming that has been put in there by the mass media systems. The buttons that you have everywhere have been placed there by your teachers in the earthly realm. And they know that you have those buttons. They know that you have financial fear. They know that you have a fear of death. They know that you have a fear of political instability. They know these things. And so when they need to get you frightened, they will create a crisis to focus on one of your buttons. So the lessons and the practice of forgiveness that A Course in Miracles asks you to practice is going to reveal to you your buttons so that you may remove them from your consciousness preemptively, so that you know, I have a strong fear around death. Let me work on that. Let me understand that this is something that drives my behavior. I am that one that you know as Jesus, and this year is going to be an exciting one if you choose love. It is going to be a very, very challenging one if you are down in the battlefield, fighting for survival, fighting for money, fighting for sex, fighting for food, or giving up food, giving up sex, giving up the battle for life. Whatever it is that you choose to do down in the horizontal, in the lower 3D world, it is never satisfying, because that is where the ego plays. You want to get above the battleground. You want to get a sense of equanimity, which means calmness and peace of mind, so that you can hear the guidance. That is what the channels need, the channels of communication between the higher realms and the 3D realm. We need a peaceful mind that is not jagged and attacking and fearful, putting up a static. We say it's like a barbed wire fence around your consciousness. Each of the points of the barbed wire are your judgments and your fears and your unquestioned beliefs. And so we understand that you want specifics about who's going to do what and what's going to happen and which month and all of that. And we are not permitted to tell you, because you will then focus on those dates and you will change your behavior. We want you to change your behavior regardless of the dates. We don't want you to avoid experiences. We don't want you to prejudge experiences. We don't want you to do any of those things. We want you to use your free will to choose love to the best of your ability every single day. And in that use of free will, you are dismantling the power systems of the ego-driven environment. If you do not choose love, the default setting is separation and fear. That is the default setting of this 3D earthly plane. There are many levels of consciousness above this one, and there are amazing experiences and worlds to be experienced once you have mastered love. But that is the homework for this particular landscape, this particular frequency. You must master love, and the quicker you do it, the happier you'll be. No more procrastination, no more putting off, no more doing a lesson once a week. Take advantage of the gift that this being has offered and do the lessons every single day to the best of your ability as described, and you will weather this year of 2019 much better. Do not fear what we say. Your world is becoming more loving, and the unloving institutions are going to become less and less stable, and eventually they will dissolve in the frequency of love. So see this practice as your demonstration of your understanding that love is always the answer. These systems are held up by fear, your fear. And the more of you that are afraid, the stronger they are. And that is why they keep pumping you full of fear. We are here to pump you full of love, and we want you to know that it is a great joy for us to be able to communicate with you in this way. This being enjoys this work very much, and we are glad of that because we love channeling through this particular microphone. So we say Happy New Year to you, and dedicate yourself to the best of your ability to transforming your own mind into a more loving transmitter and receiver. This being is going to have a little minute to have a sip of tea, and we will come back to answer a couple of questions. Okay, where are my glasses? Oh my goodness. Okay, how long was that? Half an hour. Wow. Okay, let me just move the chat over. Serena, the clarification process is the course. It is your forgiveness practice. Oh, that was a lot of words. Let me just have a cup of tea here. I have a question. What is your take on plant medicines such as ayahuasca for healing and expanding consciousness? Angela Franks. Okay, let's ask Jesus that question. I am that one that you know as Jesus, and it is important for you to understand that in your evolutionary journey, you are going to have many escarpments and many plateaus, escarpments and plateaus, escarpments and plateaus. We as spiritual teachers must communicate with you where you are. And many of you have very, very closed minds. You're deeply indoctrinated into worldly beliefs and materialism. And so one of the things that is, we would say, consider one of the escarpments is the use of medicinal hallucinogenics, or some people call them plant medicines, as a way of experiencing a different level of consciousness. But as usual, the mind that is limited, the mind that is ego-driven, will use a substance such as this, seeing it as a power outside of itself, saying to itself, if not openly, then subconsciously, I cannot access this kind of experience by myself. So I must ingest something outside of me to give me that experience. And some of those substances do give you a psychedelic experience, an expanded consciousness experience. The trouble with the uneducated mind is that you are not practicing a spiritual practice in combination with using those substances. So the uneducated mind, and most of you are uneducated in spiritual principles in your society, you're not studying with a shaman, you're not in a regular practice with a wise and experienced spiritual master, will say, well, I liked how that felt. I got this piece of information. Well, when you go back into your own consciousness, you will begin to suffer again. And so you will say, oh, I need to go back and have another session of ayahuasca or marijuana or whatever it is. And then you will have an expanded experience again. Some of these chemicals are designed to give you an opportunity to loose the chains of your consciousness a little bit. But then you go back to your ordinary consciousness again in your Western world, watching your television or drinking your beer or going to a job you don't like, whatever it is. And then you will begin to suffer again. And you can see that this is how an addiction is set up. You are not trained how to achieve the expanded level of consciousness by a master teacher. And that is where these plant medicines were used in indigenous societies. The shamans and the wise witch doctors of those countries and places were extremely experienced in teaching how to open up the mind. And so these ceremonies would be used as a demonstration of where you could potentially go. Messages could potentially be given to you. But beings in these indigenous societies would be studying and praying and meditating and dancing and chanting on a regular basis, and they would be taught on a regular basis by a wise teacher. So that is where this society tends to fall down. Deep suffering, a lot of money in the bank, and then off you are to Peru to have an ayahuasca experience. And yet when you come back from Peru after having had an expanded psychological journey, you are still in your ordinary consciousness, deeply conditioned, deeply fearful, deeply programmed, and you will suffer again. And you will say, see, I need ayahuasca again, or I need something again, because the teachings are not there. And so if you want to have an experience of one of these psychedelic plants We say don't do it if you are not willing to dedicate yourself to practicing a spiritual practice with a teacher that has proven their wisdom, So you are going to engage in a superficial transformation, temporary transformation of consciousness, and then bring it back into a world that is lower in frequency, and you will plummet down into your ordinary consciousness and then feel a lack when there is no lack as such, but you have not got access to those multidimensional parts of your consciousness because you've not been trained properly. You've been deeply brainwashed into materialism and fear and belief in violence and war. And so that is the answer to that question. We say if you're using a substance on a regular basis to alter your consciousness, then you are ignoring the fact that your consciousness is unhappy and that you are using a substance to free yourself from the suffering that your own beliefs and thoughts and ideas are causing you. So some of you in your society believe that plant medicines such as marijuana are very, very good for you, using them all the time. And we say when you pass over into your next experience, your in-between life experience, you will see that you were using it as a crutch if you're using it all the time. It should be used in ceremony. It should be used infrequently only as a demonstration of the potential of your inner world. And that potential does not need to be accessed through drug and plant medicine use. So we want you to know that. That is truth. We would not lie to you. So look at what you're using habitually to shift your consciousness and understand that there is an issue there in your consciousness that you would be well served to deal with, because if you do not deal with a mind that causes you suffering and you're using addictive or medicinal plants or alcohol to deal with that issue, then you will have to come back and have that issue presented to you again in another incarnation. And that is a waste of your life. We want you to know that this time and place is a powerful, powerful, energetic focal point where you can deal with everything in your mind from past incarnations and from traumas in this incarnation. So be diligent with your spiritual practice now. The energies are rising and you have the ability to clear yourself of a lot of things in this incarnation based on the frequencies that are at play right now. Whew, okay, let's see what's going on over here. How to address the programming from the medical community in relation to drugging people with Alzheimer's. I want to help my mum heal somehow. I think I got all that. It moved up. This is a very good question because we have a lot of programming around medicine. You are blessed beings indeed, and I am that one that you know as Jesus, and I introduce myself that way every single time to remind you that you are blessed beings indeed. You are loved greatly by spirit, but you have some difficult teachings around certain diseases, certain limitations. The ego always sees every sickness or limitation as a bad thing. But there are experiences that you can get from these seemingly bad experiences that will actually enlighten you. Not completely, but they will shine a light on a part of your consciousness that needs to be looked at. Alzheimer's is often used at the end of an incarnation to demonstrate loss of control. Many beings are profoundly controlling and profoundly fearful, and so controlling. Control is an effect of fear. And they have an opportunity at the end of their lives to give up that control. And some beings who are aware of their control issues in their pre-life discussions with ascended master teachers and their guides and teachers will say, if I have not addressed the issue of my fears and controls at the end of my life, let's give me an experience of complete loss of control so that I can have that experience before I pass over. Now, this seems absolutely crazy to the ego mind, the mind that wants to be perfect, the mind that wants to master everything. But you are not in charge of anybody else's life. You are in charge of your own. And your mother or your father, who is perhaps suffering from Alzheimer's and is being perhaps medicated by the system that they are a part of, they have made their choices and they are on their journey through their own minds. That's what your incarnation is. It is a journey through your own consciousness, and it will reveal to you everything that needs to be shown to you in this incarnation. And we want you to know that your job is to focus on your consciousness, because you will be more effective and you will be very influential, and miracles can happen when you get your consciousness up high out of the realms of fear and control. Because this is what you are feeling. You are feeling the need to control your mother's experience. That is essentially a lack of faith in her journey. You are heavily conditioned, we know, into wanting perfect experiences for all of the beings that you love. But we will tell you, spirit values every single experience. And some lives that end early, some lives that end in what you would consider terrible accidents, some lives that are perhaps limited by some handicap of some kind, you will look at and say, that is a failed life, that is a waste of a life, that is a terrible life. But once that being passes over into non-physical, they will say, wow, that was a really interesting experience. I lost complete control, or I was completely dependent on people, or I was so negative and so depressed that I took my own life. And they will see things in that experience that you, as an observer from the outside, are not aware of. Now, ultimately, there is no separation between any of you. We would like you to look at your experience with your mother with Alzheimer's and ask, what is it bringing up in me? Because she is not a separate being from you. She is triggering in you your wounds. She is triggering in you your lack of control, your need for control. She is triggering you your fear of her suffering. You do not know what is going on inside her consciousness. Because of beings that have Alzheimer's, for example, you will be interpreting their words, their behaviors from your level of consciousness. They may very well be having extreme out-of-body experiences with their guides and teachers. They may be talking to people you can't see, beings you can't see. They may be in other realities, and there you are constantly calling them back, saying, come back, try and remember me. We would say to you, use your mother's Alzheimer's as your practice for forgiveness, saying, I do not know what this is for me or her. All I know is that when I judge it and I want it to be different, I suffer. That means I'm wrong. That means I'm walking away from love. Love is accepting what is and going into it with intense curiosity, saying, what is this experience showing me? I don't know what it's showing her. That's none of my business. But it's showing you something about the issues that you need to look at. And when you feel bad, that is one of the issues you need to look at. And you must go beneath the form. You must go beneath the form and the argument of saying, well, my mum is crying. That's why I'm suffering. No, you're suffering if she's crying because you're saying her tears mean that she is in pain, or her tears mean that she is suffering. but you do not know what that means. You do not know her journey, and you do not know the assignments she had when she came into this incarnation, and you don't know what idols she chose to deal with in this incarnation, all hidden from you. Your consciousness, as you heal it, as you reintegrate the mind, as you practice forgiveness and acceptance and go, this is what's happening, so it is best for me to accept it and bring love to the situation to the best of my ability. Let me just be there and hold her hand. Let me just say, it's okay, Mom, you can go where you need to go. I'm not going to try and bring you back here. Love her and communicate with her with an open heart, not a fearless mind, not a grasping, controlling energy, but go to her and truly love her and say, you have created an experience that from my point of view looks really difficult, but that is your life and your journey. I have no right to lay my beliefs and my value system on you as you're going through this, but what I can do is absolutely accept and gaze upon this experience with forgiving eyes and bring to our relationship, in whatever the form is now, the best of my love. And that is what we want you to do. We don't want you to obsess about medications. We don't want you to obsess about anything anyone else is doing. But we want you to use this as your practice to reveal your fears, to reveal your control issues, to reveal your beliefs. And those are the things that you have to look at. That is your job. Your job is not to control her experience. Now, in your society, this would be considered unloving, but it is truly loving, because just as the world is the effect of thousands and thousands and thousands of beliefs and ideas, and there's no point in you trying to change the world, you need to change the beliefs and ideas. So your mum's physical experience, her life experience, her bodily experience is the end result of thousands and thousands of choices and priorities and beliefs that she has held throughout her life. And there is nothing that you can do to change the end result. She is now experiencing the effect of many, many things, and not all bad. Do not believe that they are all bad. You, on the other hand, need to address your beliefs and ideas as they are triggered by this experience and the relationship with your mother with Alzheimer's, so that you reveal to you the unloving beliefs or fearful beliefs and ideas that you have, so that you do not need to experience them in physical form. Preemptively clarify yourself of these beliefs and ideas that cause your suffering as it relates to your mum. And you will have a better future, a healthier future, a more long-lived future. We will return shortly. Okay. Okay, I'm going to do one more question. So we're going to be basically do an hour session here. I would like to know the cause of bulb light flickering like a candle flame turning itself on and off. It's very scary and spooky. Do you mind sharing your experience with water, walking on it and changing to wine? I'm super fascinated, as I know frequency can change the form. Could you go more in depth about how important it is for each of us to connect with nature, as well as incorporating more fruits and veggies in our lives? Okay, let's see what he chooses to answer. I am that one that you know as Jesus, and it is with great pleasure that we speak to you today. We want you to know that the questions you have about the world are less important than you think they are. Once again, flickering lights, fruits and vegetables, these are mundane earthly things. Flickering lights, electricity is inconsistent, and spirits and all kinds of effects can change the capacity of a light bulb to hold that bright light. It is again, an opportunity for you to reveal to yourself your fears. You are telling stories about what it means. You are laying a meaning on that flickering light that is giving you the heebie-jeebies. Course in Miracles Lessons tells you not to lay your story on the world. Your story reveals your inner mind to yourself. So if you're scaring yourself with stories about the light flickering, that is what you want to go beneath the form. Go beneath the form of the flickering light bulb and the story that you are laying upon it, and go in there and say, I believe in evil. I believe in the devil. I believe in possession. Where does that come from? Oh, the horror movies you've watched, the church teachings that you perhaps have been indoctrinated with. It is that you use these kinds of opportunities for, to reveal to you the story that you are laying on that flickering light. It's coming from you. It is not meaning in and of itself. You are projecting your fears, your ideas onto that, and that is the gift that experience is there to give you. It's there to show you that you have some negative beliefs about spirit, that you have some fearful ideas about possession and evil, and you want to clarify your mind of those things. And doing A Course in Miracles will help you with that. Fruits and veggies, you are much better served to eat foods that are close to the sun. That means that have been unprocessed by anybody, organic, not sprayed with anything. And we understand that this is getting more and more challenging for you in your society. And we want to tell you that the reason these things are being poisoned more and more and more is intentional. It is a frequency lowering strategy along with the fear-mongering and the warmongering. So we want you to decide to purchase and consume unprocessed organic food, and we say there is a lot of it in your society, but you must prioritize your expenses. If you are spending a lot of money, for example, on eating out, stop eating out and spend that money on organic food. If you are spending a lot of money on cable fees and cell phone fees, cut back to the basics. So you've just got a phone. Stop cruising on the internet all the time, all day long, and spend that money each month on organic food. These are the places that we want you to shift and change. Instead of expensive entertainments, take yourself out for a hike in the woods. Doesn't cost you a penny. Spend that money on entertainment that you would have spent on entertainment on organic foods. You are going to benefit from this. It sounds extreme, because your society is extreme. When I was on the earth plane 2,000 years ago, everything was organic. Everything was holistic. Everything was healthy. Animals and plants were raised by loving hands in an organic nature, in an organic way. They were cared for by gardeners who loved them. And they were grown locally and seasonally, and there was no issue. This is why there was no discussion really of these subjects in earlier spiritual teachings, because it was unnecessary, but it is necessary now. However, we want you to know that doing the lessons of A Course in Miracles will inspire you and get you into a frequency where French fries don't appeal to you, where industrially raised meats do not appeal to you. You will begin to see that you go down the meat aisle and you're saying, no, don't want to be here. This doesn't feel right anymore. So the relinquishment of some of the poisons in your society will not be an act of discipline. It will simply fall away from you as you raise your frequency up towards the light and love. And so eat the foods that are grown in light and in love. That means outside, unprocessed, on organic farms by people who love good food. Cook it as little as possible. Make sure that if you're cooking vegetables, you just lightly steam them, or you eat them raw if you can. The less processing you do, the more alive your food is, and the more light is contained in the food. Light is information. The same thing goes for being in nature. The natural light of the sun and the stars and the moon's reflective sunlight is carrying information, and it's carrying upgrades for you. So the more time you spend outside, the better. Don't let the winter months stop you from going outside. Bundle up, put your boots on, put a hat on, and enjoy the brisk, fresh air. Do not be afraid of the sun, but use your intelligence. Don't spend 8 or 9 hours out in the middle of summer with bare skin, but sit under a tree and then go for a swim in the ocean. Come back and sit under the shade and then go for a little walk. Spread out your sun exposure into the early parts of the day and the later parts of the day. That information can still get to you. Light is love. Love is light. Life is love. Love is life. We love you. We know that you know what to do. You just have to declutter your mind, reconfigure your programs so that you are in alignment with connection to wisdom. That is what this year can hold for you. If you do the lessons of A Course in Miracles, we suggest that all of these problems can be easily resolved with a mind that is connected to the loving guidance from Source. I am that one that you know as Jesus, and I want to thank you for joining us on this excursion into the early part of 2019. This being is cooperating wonderfully with us at this time, and we will continue to poke her along the lessons of A Course in Miracles. She's a good student, she's a good teacher, and we want to thank her and you for participating in this wonderful, wonderful transmission. I am that one that you know as Jesus, and I will speak to you again soon. Okay, that's all the words this girl's going to say today. Thank you once again, and if you are interested in my books or the subscription live channelings that we do twice a month, please go to channelingjesus.com. And you can find the subscriptions to the live streaming under channeling and the books under books. I'll see you on the flip side. Bye.